In our last episode, we opened the doors to the Spade and Archer Detective Agency and met Samuel Spade, a man with a face like a blonde Satan and a mind that's always 3 steps ahead of the room.
It all started with the arrival of Miss Wonderly. She walked in with a classic story, a runaway sister, a dangerous man named Floyd Thursby, and a plea for help. It seemed like a standard shadow job, and Spade's partner, Miles Archer, was all too happy to take the night watch himself.
But, as we saw in Chapter 2, the San Francisco fog can be lethal. Before the night was over, Miles Archer was found at the bottom of a steep slope on Bush Street, shot dead with a rare Webley Fosbury revolver.
The mystery deepened almost immediately. Sam Spade didn't even have time to process his partner's death before the police were at his door with more news. Floyd Thursby, the man Miles was supposed to be following, was also shot dead in front of his hotel.
Now, Spade is in the hot seat. Lieutenant Dundee and Tom Polhouse are looking for a fall guy, and they've got their eyes fixed squarely on Sam. He's got no partner, 2 dead bodies, and a client whose story is starting to leak like a sieve.
As we head into Chapter 3, Sam has to start digging into the truth behind Miss Wonderly and the real reason Miles was out in that fog.
If you're enjoying our journey through this noir classic, please take a second to hit that like button and subscribe to Dragon's Den Classics.
And be sure to turn on notifications. We've got a lot of twists coming up, and you won't want to miss a single chapter as we uncover the mystery of the Maltese Falcon, written by Dashiell Hammett.
Now, let's get back to the action. Chapter 3, Three Women.
When Spade reached his office at 10 o'clock the following morning, Effie Perrine was at her desk opening the morning's mail. Her boyish face was pale under its sunburn. She put down the handful of envelopes and the brass paper knife she held. Her voice was low and warning. "She's in there,"
I ask you to keep her away.
Spade complained, also keeping his voice low. Effie Perrine's brown eyes opened wide, and her voice was as irritable as his. "Yes, but you didn't tell me how. Don't be cranky, Sam. I had her all night." Spade stood beside the girl, put a hand on her head, and smoothed her hair away from its parting. He began to apologize, but broke off as the inner door opened.
Hello, Iva.
"Oh, Sam!" She was a blonde woman of a few more years than 30. Her facial prettiness was perhaps 5 years past its best moment. Her body, for all its sturdiness, was finely modeled and exquisite. She wore black clothes from hat to shoes. They had as morning an impromptu air. Having spoken, she stepped back from the door and stood waiting for Spade. He took his hand from Effie Perrine's head and entered the inner office, shutting the door. Iva came quickly to him, raising her sad face for his kiss. Her arms were around him before his held her. When they had kissed, he made a little movement as if to release her, but she pressed her face to his chest and began sobbing. He stroked her round back, saying,
Poor darling.
His voice was tender. His eyes, squinting at the desk that had been his partner's, across the room from his own, were angry. He drew his lips back over his teeth in an impatient grimace and turned his chin aside to avoid contact with the crown of her hat.
Did you send for Miles's brother?
"Yes, he came over this morning." The words were blurred by her sobbing and his coat against her mouth. Spade grimaced and bent his head for a surreptitious look at the watch on his wrist. His left arm was around her, the hand on her left shoulder. His cuff was pulled back far enough to leave the watch uncovered. It showed 10:10. The woman stirred in his arms and raised her face again. Her blue eyes were wet, round, and bright ringed. Her mouth was moist. "Oh, Sam," she moaned. "Did you kill him?" Spade stared at her with bulging eyes. His bony jaw fell down. He took his arms from her and stepped back, scowling and clearing his throat. She held her arms up as he had left them. Anguish clouded her eyes, partly closed them under eyebrows pulled up at the inner ends. Her soft, damp red lips trembling. Spade laughed a harsh syllable
Ha!
and went to the buff curtained window, looking through the curtain into the court. When she started towards him, he turned quickly and went to his desk. He sat down, put his elbows on the desk, his chin between his fists, and looked at her. His yellowish eyes glittered between narrowed lids.
Who put that bright idea in your head?
"I thought, be kind to me, Sam," she said humbly. She came to stand beside the desk, moving with easy, sure-footed grace in black slippers, whose smallness and heel height were extreme. He laughed at her, his eyes still glittering.
You killed my husband, Sam. Be kind to me.
She began to cry audibly, holding a white handkerchief to her face. He got up and stood close behind her, putting his arms around her and kissing her neck.
Now, Iva, don't.
His eyes were expressionless. When she had stopped crying, he put his mouth to her ear and murmured.
You shouldn't have come here today, Precious. It wasn't wise. You can't stay. You ought to be home.
She turned around in his arms to face him and asked, "You'll come tonight?"
He shook his head gently. Not tonight.
"Soon?"
Yes,
"How soon?"
as soon as I can.
He kissed her mouth, led her to the door, said goodbye, and bowed her out and shut the door. Returning to his desk, he took tobacco and papers from his vest pockets, but did not roll a cigarette. He sat holding them, looking with brooding eyes at his dead partner's desk until Effie Perrine came in. Her brown eyes were uneasy. "Well, how did you and the widow make out?" Spade said nothing. His brooding gaze did not move from his partner's desk. The girl frowned and came around to his side. "Well?" she asked in a louder voice. "How did you and the widow make out?"
She thinks I shot Miles.
"So you could marry her?" Spade made no reply. The girl took his hat from his head and put it on the desk. Then she leaned over and took the tobacco sack and the papers from his inert fingers.
The police think I shot Thursby.
"Who is he?" She separated a cigarette paper from the packet, sifting tobacco into it.
Who do you think I shot?
When she ignored that question, he said,
Thursby's the guy Miles was supposed to be tailing for the Wonderly girl.
Her thin fingers finished shaping the cigarette. She licked it, smoothed it, twisted its ends, and placed it between Spade's lips.
Thanks, honey.
He put an arm around her slim waist and rested his cheek wearily against her hip, shutting his eyes. "Are you going to marry Iva?" she asked, looking down at his pale brown hair.
Don't be silly, he muttered. The unsightly cigarette bobbed up and down with the movement of his lips.
"She doesn't think it's silly. Why should she, the way you've played around with her?"
He sighed and said, I wish I'd never seen her.
"Maybe you do now, but there was a time." A trace of spitefulness came into the girl's voice. "But there was a time."
I never know what to do or what to say with women, he grumbled. And then I don't like Miles.
"That's a lie, Sam. You know I think she's a louse, but I'd be a louse too if it would give me a body like hers." She bit her lip, wrinkled her forehead, and bent over for a better view of his face and asked, "Do you suppose she could have killed him?" Spade sat up straight and took his arm from her waist, smiling with amusement. He took out his lighter and lit his cigarette.
You're an angel, a nice rattle-brained angel.
She smiled at him wryly. Oh, am I? Suppose I told you that your Iva hadn't been home many minutes when I arrived to break the news at 3 o'clock this morning? She kept me waiting at the door while she undressed. I saw her clothes on a chair. Her hat and coat were underneath. Her singlet on top was still warm. She had wrinkled up the bed, but the wrinkles weren't mashed down. Spade took the girl's hand and patted it, but shook his head.
You're a detective, darling, but she didn't kill him.
She snatched her hand away. That louse wants to marry you, Sam, she said bitterly. She frowned at him and demanded, Did you see her last night?
No,
Honestly?
honestly, don't act like Dundee, sweetheart. It ill becomes you.
Has Dundee been after you?
Uh-huh. He and Tom Polehouse dropped in for a drink at 4 o'clock.
Do they really think you shot this what's his name?
Thursby. He dropped what was left of his cigarette into the brass tray and began to roll another.
Do they?
God knows. His eyes were on the cigarette he was making. They did have some such notion. I don't know how far I talked him out of it.
Look at me, Sam. He looked at her and laughed so that for the moment merriment mingled with the anxiety in her face. You worry me. You always think you know what you're doing, but you're too slick for your own good, and someday you're going to find it out. He sighed mockingly and rubbed his cheek against her arm.
That's what Dundee says. But you keep Ivo away from me, sweet, and I'll manage to survive the rest of my troubles. He stood up and put on his hat. Oh, and have the Spade and Archer taken off the door and Samuel's Spade put on. I'll be back in an hour, or I'll phone you.
Spade went through the St. Mark's long purplish lobby to the desk and asked a red-haired clerk whether Miss Wonderly was in. The clerk turned away and then back, shaking his head.
She checked out this morning, Mr. Spade. Thanks.
Spade walked past the desk to an alcove off the lobby where a plump, middle-aged man in dark clothes sat at a flat-topped mahogany desk. On the edge of the desk facing the lobby was a triangular prism of mahogany and brass inscribed Mr. Freed. The plump man got up and came around, holding out his hand.
I was awfully sorry to hear about Archer, Spade, he said in the tone of one trained to sympathize readily without intrusiveness. I've just seen it in the call. He was in here last night, you know. Thanks, Freed. Were you talking to him? No, he was sitting in the lobby when I came in early in the evening. I didn't stop. I thought he was probably working, and I know you fellows like to be left alone when you're busy. Did that have anything to do with his? I don't think so, but we don't know yet. Anyway, we won't mix the house up in it if we can help it. Can you give me some dope on an ex-guest and then forget that you asked for it? A Miss Wonderly checked out this morning. I'd like to know the details. Come along and we'll see what we can learn. I don't want to show in it.
Freed nodded and went out of the alcove. In the lobby, he halted suddenly and came back to Spade.
Harriman was the house detective on duty last night. He's sure to have seen Archer. Shall I caution him not to mention it? Spade looked at Freed from the corner of his eyes. Better not. That won't make any difference as long as there's no connection shown with this Wonderly. Harriman's all right, but he likes to talk, and I'd like to not have him think there's anything to be kept quiet.
Freed nodded again and went away. 15 minutes later, he returned.
She arrived last Tuesday, registered from New York. She hadn't a trunk, only some bags. There were no phone calls, and she doesn't seem to have received mail. The only one seen with her was a tall, dark man of 36 or so. She went out at 9:30 this morning, came back an hour later and paid her bill. and then had her bags carried out to a car. The boy who carried them says it was a Nash touring car, probably a hired one. She did leave a forwarding address, the Ambassador, Los Angeles. Thanks a lot, Freed.
Spade left the St. Mark. When he returned to his office, Effie Perrine stopped typing to give him an update. Your friend Dundee was in. He wanted to look at your guns.
And
I told him to come back when you were here.
good girl. If he comes back again, let him look at him.
And Miss Wonderly called up.
It's about time. What did she say?
She wants to see you. She's at the Coronet on California Street, apartment 1001. You're to ask for Miss LeBlanc. Spade held out his hand, and she gave him the memorandum. He took out his lighter, set it to the slip of paper, and held it until it was black ash. He dropped it on the floor and mashed it under his shoe sole. Effie watched him with disapproving eyes. He grinned at her.
That's just the way it is, dear. Chapter 4: The Blackbird.
Miss Wonderly, in a belted green crepe silk dress, opened the door of apartment 1001 at the Coronet. Her face was flushed. Her dark red hair, parted on the left side and sweeping back in loose waves, was somewhat tousled. Spade took off his hat.
Good morning.
His smile brought a fainter smile to her face. Her eyes, of a blue that was almost violet, did not lose their troubled look. She lowered her head and spoke in a hushed, timid voice. "Come in, Mr. Spade." She led him past open kitchen, bathroom, and bedroom doors, into a cream and red living room, apologizing for its confusion. "Everything is upside down. I haven't even finished unpacking." She laid his hat on a table and sat down on a walnut settee. He sat on a brocaded oval-backed chair facing her. She looked at her fingers, working them together, and said, "Mr. Spade, I've had a terrible, terrible confession to make." Spade smiled a polite smile, which she did not lift her eyes to see. That story I told you yesterday was all a story," she stammered, and looked up at him now with miserable, frightened eyes.
Oh, that. We didn't exactly believe your story.
Perplexity was added to the misery and fright in her eyes. Then,
We believed your $200, though.
she seemed to not know what he meant.
I mean that you paid us more than if you'd been telling the truth, and enough more to make it all right.
Her eyes suddenly lit up. She lifted herself a few inches from the settee, settled down again, smoothed her skirt, leaned forward, and spoke eagerly. "And even now you'd be willing to—" Spade stopped her with a palm-up motion of one hand. The upper part of his face frowned, while the lower part smiled.
Well, that depends. The hell of it, Miss. Is your name Wonderly or LeBlanc?
She blushed and murmured her reply. "It's really O'Shaughnessy, Bridget O'Shaughnessy."
The hell of it is, Miss O'Shaughnessy, that a couple of murders coming together like this get everybody stirred up. Make the police think that they can go the limit. Make everybody hard to handle and expensive. It's not.
He stopped talking because she had stopped listening and was waiting for him to finish. "Mr. Spade, tell me the truth." Her voice quivered on the verge of hysteria. Her face had become haggard around desperate eyes. "Am I to blame for last night?" Spade shook his head.
Not unless there are things that I don't know about. You warned us that Thursby was dangerous. Of course, you lied to us about your sister and all. But that doesn't count. We didn't believe you. I wouldn't say it was your fault.
She thanked him very softly and then moved her head from side to side. "But I'll always blame myself. Mr. Archer was so alive yesterday afternoon, so solid and hearty and
Stop it, he commanded. He knew what he was doing. They're the chances we take.
was was he married?
Yes, with $10,000 insurance, no children, and a wife who didn't like him.
Oh, please don't, she whispered. Spade shrugged. He glanced at his watch and moved from his chair to the settee beside her. His voice was pleasant but firm.
That's the way it was. There's no time for worrying about that now. Out there, a flock of policemen and assistant district attorneys and reporters are running around with their noses to the ground. What do you want to do?
I want you to save me from it all, she replied in a thin, tremulous voice. She put a timid hand on his sleeve. Mr. Spade, do they know about me?
Not yet. I wanted to see you first.
What what would they think if they knew about the way I came to you with those lies?
It would make them suspicious. That's why I've been stalling them till I could see you. I thought maybe we wouldn't have to let them know all of it. We ought to be able to fake a story that rocks them to sleep, if necessary.
You don't think I had anything to do with the murders, do you? Spade grinned at her.
I forgot to ask you that. Did you?
No.
That's good. Now, what are we going to tell the police?
She squirmed on her end of the settee, her eyes wavering between heavy lashes, as if trying and failing to free their gaze from his. She seemed smaller, very young and oppressed. Must they know about me at all? I think I'd rather die than that, Mr. Spade. I can't explain now, but can't you somehow manage so that you can shield me from them, so I won't have to answer their questions? I don't think I could stand being questioned now, can't you, Mr. Spade?
Maybe, but I'll have to know what it's all about.
She went down on her knees at his knees, holding her face up to him. Her face was wan, taut, and fearful over her tight-clasped hands. I haven't lived a good life. I've been bad, worse than you could know, but I'm not all bad. Look at me, Mr. Spade. You know, I'm not all bad, don't you? Then can't you trust me a little? Oh, I'm so alone and afraid, and I've got nobody to help me if you won't help me. I know I've no right to ask you to trust me if I won't trust you. I do trust you, but I can't tell you now. Later I will, when I can. Help me, Mr. Spade. Help me because I need help so badly. Be generous. Help me. Spade, who had held his breath through much of this, now emptied his lungs with a long sighing exhalation between pursed lips.
You won't need much of anybody's help. You're good. You're very good. It's chiefly your eyes, I think, and that throb you get in your voice when you say things like, "Be generous, Mr. Spade."
She jumped up on her feet, her face crimsoned painfully, but she held her head erect and looked Spade straight in the eyes. I deserve that. I deserve it, but oh, I did want your help so much. And the lie was in the way I said it, and not at all in what I said. It is my own fault that you can't believe me now. Spade's face reddened, and he looked down at the floor, muttering.
Now you're dangerous.
Bridget O'Shaughnessy went to the table and picked up his hat. She came back and stood in front of him holding it, not offering it, but holding it for him to take if he wished. Her face was white and thin.
Spade looked at his hat and asked, "What happened last night?"
Floyd came to the hotel at 9 o'clock, and we went out for a walk. I suggested that so Mr. Archer could see him. We stopped at a restaurant in Geary Street for supper and to dance, and came back to the hotel at about 12:30. Floyd left me at the door, and I stood inside and watched Mr. Archer follow him down the street on the other side.
Down? You mean towards Market Street?
Yes,
Do you know what they'd be doing in that neighborhood of Bush and Stockton where Archer was shot?
isn't that near where Floyd lived?
No. It would be nearly a dozen blocks out of his way. Well, what did you do after they were gone?
I went to bed, and this morning, when I went out for breakfast, I saw the headlines. Then I went up to Union Square, got an automobile for hire, and went to the hotel for my luggage. After I found my room had been searched yesterday, I knew I would have to move. So I came up here and then telephoned your office.
So your room at St. Mark was searched while you were at my office. That means I'm not supposed to question you about it.
She nodded shyly. Spade frowned. She moved his hat a little in her hands until he laughed with impatience.
Stop waving the hat in my face. Haven't I offered to do what I can? I've got nothing against trusting you blindly, except that I won't be able to do you much good if I haven't some idea of what this is all about. For instance, I've got to have some sort of line on your Floyd Thursby.
I met him in the Orient. She spoke slowly, looking down at a pointed finger tracing eights on the settee between them. We came here from Hong Kong last week. He had promised to help me. He took advantage of my helplessness and dependence on him to betray me.
Betray you? Spade frowned with impatience and asked, why did you want him shadowed?
I wanted to learn how far he had gone. He wouldn't even let me know where he was staying. I wanted to find out what he was doing, whom he was meeting.
Did he kill Archer?
She looked up at him, surprised. Yes, certainly, she said.
He had a Luger in a shoulder holster. Archer wasn't shot with a Luger.
He had a revolver in his overcoat pocket. I've seen it often. I know he always carries one there. I know he never wears an overcoat without it.
Why all the guns?
He lived by them. There was a story in Hong Kong that he had come out there as bodyguard to a gambler who had since disappeared. Floyd knew about his disappearing. I know that he always went heavily armed, and that he never went to sleep without covering the floor around his bed with crumpled newspaper so nobody could come silently into his room.
You sure picked a nice sort of playmate.
Only that sort could have helped me, she said simply, if he had been loyal.
Yes, if. Spade pinched his lower lip between his finger and thumb and looked gloomily at her. The vertical creases over his nose deepened, drawing his brows together. How bad a hole are you actually in?
As bad as could be.
Physical danger?
I'm not heroic. I don't think there's anything worse than death.
Then it's that.
It's that as surely as we're sitting here. She shivered. Unless you help me. Spade ran his fingers through his hair irritably.
I'm not Christ. I can't work miracles out of thin air. The day's going, and you've given me nothing to work with. So, who killed Thursby?
She put a crumpled handkerchief to her mouth and said, I don't know, through it.
Your enemies or his?
I don't know. His, I hope, but I'm afraid.
How was he supposed to be helping you? Why did you bring him here from Hong Kong?
She shook her head in silence, her face haggard and stubborn. Spade stood up, thrust his hands into the pockets of his jacket, and scowled down at her.
This is hopeless. I can't do anything for you. I don't know what you want done. I don't even know if you know what you want.
She hung her head and wept. Spade made a growling noise in his throat and reached for his hat. You won't, she begged in a small, choked voice, not looking up, go to the police?
Go to them, he exclaimed, his voice loud with rage. They've been running me ragged since 4 o'clock this morning. I've made myself God knows how much trouble standing them off. For what? For some crazy notion that I could help you? I can't. I won't even try. He put his hat on his head and pulled it down tight. Go to them? All I've got to do is stand still and they'll be swarming all over me. Well, I'll tell them what I know and you'll have to take your chances.
She rose from the settee and held herself straight, though her knees were trembling. You've been patient. You've tried to help me. It is hopeless and useless, I suppose. I thank you for what you have done. I'll have to take my chances. Spade made the growling noise again and sat back down.
How much money do you have?
I have about $500 left.
Give it to me.
She hesitated, looking timidly at him. He made an angry gesture, then she went into her bedroom, returning with a sheaf of paper money. Spade took it and counted it.
There's only 400 here.
I had to keep some to live on, she explained meekly, putting a hand to her breast.
Can't you get any more? You must have something you can raise money on. You'll have to hawk your jewelry.
She looked pleadingly at him, but his yellow-gray eyes were hard and implacable. Slowly, she reached inside the neck of her dress, brought out a slender roll of bills, and put them in his hand. He smoothed the bills out and counted them. 4 20s, 4 10s, and a 5. He returned 2 of the 10s and the 5 to her. The others he put in his pocket. Then he stood up and said,
I'm going out and see what I can do for you. I'll be back soon as I can. I'll ring 4 times. Long, short, so you'll know it's me. You needn't go to the door with me. I can let myself out.
He left her standing in the center of the floor, looking after him with dazed blue eyes. Spade went into a reception room whose door bore the legend Wise, American, and Wise. A red-haired girl was at the switchboard.
Hello, darling. Is Sid in?
He stood beside her with a hand on her plump shoulder while she manipulated a plug and spoke into the mouthpiece. Mr. Spade to see you, Mr. Wise. She looked up at Spade. Go right in. He squeezed her shoulder by way of acknowledgement, crossed the reception room to a dully lighted inner corridor, and passed down the corridor to a frosted glass door. Inside, a small olive-skinned man with a tired oval face, under thin dark hair dotted with dandruff, sat behind an immense desk.
The small man flourished a cold cigar stub up at Spade and said, Pull a chair round. So, Miles got the big one last night, eh? Neither his tired face nor his rather shrill voice held any emotion. Uh-huh. That's what I came in about. I think I'm going to have to tell the coroner to go to hell. Sid, can I hide behind the sanctity of my client's secrets? Sid Wise lifted his shoulders and lowered the ends of his mouth. Why not? An inquest is not a court trial. You can try anyway. You've gotten away with more than this before. I know, but Dundee's getting snotty. Get your hat, Sid, and we'll go downtown and see the right people. I want to be safe.
Sid looked at the papers massed on his desk and groaned, but he got up from his chair and went to the closet by the window.
You're a son of a gun, Sammy, he said as he took his hat from its hook.
Spade returned to his office at 10 minutes past 5 that evening. Effie Perrine was sitting at his desk reading.
Anything stirring?
Not here. You look like you'd swallow the canary.
He grinned contentedly. I think we've got a future. I always had an idea that if Miles would go off and die somewhere, we'd stand a lot better chance at thriving. Will you take care of sending flowers for me?
I did.
You're an invaluable angel. How's your woman's intuition doing today?
Why?
What do you think of Wonderly?
I'm for her, the girl replied without hesitation.
She's got too many names. Wonderly, LeBlanc, and then she says the right one's O'Shaughnessy.
I don't care if she's got all the names in the phone book. That girl is all right, and you know it. Sam, if that girl's in trouble and you let her down or take advantage of it to bleed her, I'll never forgive you as long as I live. Spade was about to speak, but the sound of someone's entrance stopped him. Effie went into the outer office. Spade took off his hat and sat in his chair. The girl returned with an engraved card. Mr. Joel Cairo. This guy is queer.
In with him then, darling.
Mr. Joel Cairo was a small-boned, dark man of medium height. His hair was glossy black and smooth. His features were Levantine. A square-cut ruby, its sides paralleled by four baguette-cut diamonds, gleamed against the deep green of his cravat. His black coat, cut tight to narrow shoulders, flared a little over slightly plump hips. His trousers fitted his round legs more snugly than was the current fashion. The uppers of his patent leather shoes hidden by fawn spats. He held a black derby hat in a chamois gloved hand and came toward Spade with short, mincing, bobbing steps. The fragrance of sheeper came with him.
Sit down, Mr. Cairo. Now, what can I do for you?
Cairo bowed elaborately over his hat, said,
I thank you.
in a high-pitched, thin voice, and sat down. He sat down primly, crossing his ankles, placing his hat on his knees, and began to draw off his yellow gloves. Cairo turned his hat over, dropping his gloves into it, and placed it bottom up on the corner of the desk nearest him. Diamonds twinkled on the second and fourth fingers of his left hand, a ruby that matched the one on his tie, even to the surrounding diamonds on the third finger of his right hand. His hands were soft and well cared for. Though they were not large, flaccid bluntness made them seem clumsy. He rubbed his palms together and said over the whispering sound they made,
May a stranger offer condolences for your partner's unfortunate death. Thanks. May I ask if there was a relationship between that and the death of the man Thursby?
Spade said nothing in a blank-faced way.
Cairo rose and bowed. I beg your pardon. He sat down and placed his hands side by side, palms down on the corner of the desk. More than idle curiosity made me ask that, Mr. Spade. I am trying to recover an ornament that has, shall we say, been mislaid. I thought and hoped you could assist me.
Spade nodded with eyebrows lifted to indicate attentiveness.
The ornament is a statuette, Cairo went on, selecting and mouthing his words carefully. The black figure of a bird.
Spade nodded again with courteous interest.
I am prepared to pay, on behalf of the figure's rightful owner, the sum of $5,000 for its recovery. Cairo raised one hand from the desk corner and touched a spot in air with the broad-nailed tip of an ugly forefinger. I am prepared to promise that, what is the phrase? No questions will be asked. He put his hand on the desk once again beside the other and smiled blandly over them at the private detective. $5,000 is a lot of money, Spade commented, looking thoughtfully at Cairo. It...
Fingers drummed lightly on the door. Effie Perrine's head appeared. Is there anything else?
No. Good night. Lock the door when you go, will you?
After the corridor door closed behind Effie, Spade turned back to Cairo.
It's an interesting figure for sure.
Cairo smiled and took a short, compact, flat black pistol out of an inner pocket.
You will please clasp your hands together at the back of your neck. Wow, this story sure didn't take long to get off the ground. We've had 2 murders already and a lot of lying and misdirection going on. So many things to talk about. Where would you like to start, Anna?
Well, to start with, like at the very beginning of the chapter, when Miles's widow, Iva, she comes
Hmm.
in, she starts accusing Sam of killing Miles, and it's like, well, why? Because that's his partner. But then, like, Sam says that he was playing around with her, and like, that was kind of crazy because you wouldn't normally cheat with your partner's wife, but it really puts a layer on it. And then it also would look bad if anyone knew, like with the police, because they're really on him these days.
Yeah, that really threw a wrench in there. That was like, to me, that was like out of nowhere. I
Yeah.
did not expect that. And you're right. You wouldn't expect someone to be messing around with your partner's wife. But
Yeah.
that kind of set the story in a little bit of a different direction.
Mm,
It also kind of says something about Sam Spade's character,
mm,
if you know what I mean. And talking about character, I think maybe kind of the opposite of that is Effie's character.
mm.
Okay, so um, Sam Spade brings this very cynical type character who's doing morally things that aren't really right.
Yeah.
And Effie, on the other side, is placed as kind of the fiercely loyal to Sam, and kind of we can almost, from my point of view, count on her to do the right thing. And
Mm,
you can also see in this last chapter her physical care for Sam. She's not just a secretary, she's rolling his cigarettes and taking care of him, putting his hat up and stuff like that.
yeah, exactly. It was really interesting to see in the last chapter as well because it's like he asked about the flowers and she had already done it. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like really central. And another character who's been central recently to the story is Miss Brigid. She's got so many names. First, it was Wonderly, and then LeBlanc got thrown in there, and then finally, we've got O'Shaughnessy. So it really makes you wonder what's her actual name. But that just only proves the point that she's been putting on a lot of performance. And especially like when Spade went to her apartment and she was like, "Oh, yeah, I'm really sorry, but I need your help." And then after that, she was like, "Oh, that was just a play too, but I really do need your help." So she's definitely a manipulator of a high degree, and we'll see how that turns out for her, I guess.
Yeah, it was interesting to me when she was discussing it with Sam Spade, and he's like, "Yeah, we didn't believe you. We didn't believe you, but the money was good enough that we went ahead and did what you wanted to do, which ended
Yeah.
up leading to two murders."
Mm,
But you're right, she is a manipulator, so we'll see how she goes. The funny thing is that he calls her out in the last chapter and
mm,
tells her right to his face, basically, laughs at her,
yeah.
which kind of goes hand in hand with this character that's developing Sam Spade's character. Um, After he calls her out, he basically bleeds her for the money. Basically,
Yeah.
he takes all most of the money she has and
Hmm.
tells her to hawk her jewelry. So I'm wondering, do you consider him greedy for doing that? Or is he just charging a danger tax, so to speak, for the trouble she's caused?
I honestly think that she has been a bit of a nuisance, and I mean, she got one of his partner killed, so I
Yeah.
think that danger tax is definitely like legitimate. Just
Yeah, I
because,
don't I don't feel sorry for her at this point.
yeah. So I can understand why. And really, the story's only going to get more dangerous because we start chapter four, or well, middle of chapter four. Joel Cairo is introduced, and he's kind of like a gangster. And he brings in the statuette of a black bird. And it's very particular. And then we can figure out that he's that type of guy, and it shifts the story from just like a murder to murder mystery to some sort of high stakes international treasure hunt.
Yeah, and he seems very Weasley. They describe him very well, and it's almost like a gangster type description,
Hmm.
a Weasley gangster. But yeah, it's definitely shifted from a murder mystery to, hey, we've got a treasure to find, and there's a number of different people that are trying to find it.
Yeah.
And I really liked the full description they went through when he walked in. And not only that, his persona is much different than the guy we've been hearing about, Sam Spade. So it provides a kind of a contrast also with the Thursby man. Thursby's
Hmm.
like blunt force, dangerous and stuff like that. Whereas we can tell that Cairo is dangerous, especially with what happened right at the end of the chapter. But it's a different type of dangers, almost
Hmm.
like you're going to have to watch your back with him.
Thanks for joining us for chapters 3 and 4 of The Maltese Falcon. Please join us next time for chapters 5 and 6 here at Dragon's Den Classics.